Hi, I'm Mikola, and I live in Seattle. That's the Space Needle. It's our Skyline symbol, and this year it's 50 years old. The still futuristic-looking Space Needle is the signature of the Seattle Skyline. Photographed by Bushu 37, used with permission. It's such a landmark that our local IKEA sells this. Product name Clamby, $49, and it's yours. Field trip.
We're going to be traveling at a speed of 10 miles an hour as we go here, so it's only going to take about 40 seconds to get all the way up to the top. Got a great view. We're looking out to the west. This is Elliott Bay, part of the Puget Sound. Connects out to the Pacific Ocean, about 140 miles out to the northwest around the Olympic Peninsula out there.
You know, we have the Space Needle because 50 years ago Seattle had a World's Fair.
One exposition World's Fair.
If you're an Elvis fan, you know that. All these buildings are the legacy of that fair. It's called Seattle Center now. Look at everything Seattle got out of the fair. A science center, a sports and concert arena, an opera house, lots of performance spaces, including a wonderful all-ages club called the Vera Project, where I'll be performing live in June with some of my internet friends. Yours too, maybe. Details at the end. Only one other fair ever bequeathed a defining signature landmark to its city. Yeah, theirs is bigger. The theme of the summer is the next 50. I kind of doubt I have another 50, but most of you do, and at least I'm optimistic enough to wear the hat. Okay, I promised you time travel. I lied. What I actually have is the opposite, time standing still. Life magazine just before the fair opened. Now here's where it gets really weird. Look at the headlines. It's like nothing has changed. Romney, Romney, Romney. But this was Mitt's dad, George, a guy so progressive he'd be thrown out of today's Republican Party. And who would throw him out? Well, over here, right-wing who's who. That would be the John Birch Society, and Fred Koch, who was a founder. George Romney's kid got into politics, so did Fred Koch's kids. Today they're the billionaire oil barons who are financing a war against Obama. I'll link to it. Nothing changes. Well, there is a change. Papa Koch was funding a tiny fringe group. The brothers Koch have brought fringe policies into one of our two mainstream parties, the GOP. And they've pretty well captured it. Flying Wallendas. Oh, this is a sad story. They were a wire-walking act. And they developed this amazing pyramid stunt. They put a guy on the wire, and then another guy behind them, and then they hooked a pole over these shoulders. And then another guy stands on the pole between these two, and then another three guys get on behind them. And the two upstairs guys, they get a pole. And on that pole, a chair, and on that chair, a woman. 4 walkers, 3 balancers. Ta-da! Death-defying. Except for that week, death would not be defined. And in the fall, someone died, others were injured. But the head of the clan, Carl Wallenda, got them back on the wire. The Wallendas are still walking wires. Well, not Carl. He fell to his death some years later. But next month, this year, June 2012, Nick Wallenda, grandson of Carl, is going to walk across Niagara Falls. Nothing changes. Movie queens. Marilyn Monroe was alive when the fair opened, dead before it closed. This year, someone got an Oscar nomination for playing Marilyn. And 3 other people played her in a train wreck of a TV show that finished this week. Nothing changes. 1962, the Rolling Stones were founded, still with us, nothing changes, also in 62. How to Succeed in Business on Broadway, starring Robert Morse. He's on TV now in Mad Men, and How to Succeed is back on Broadway. Daniel Radcliffe, Darren Criss, and Nick Jonas all played the lead. Nothing changes. Well, the close shows is this weekend. The close shows is? The show closes this weekend. What else was at the fair? The Gay Way. Just in time for Gay Week on the Mikola channel. Nothing changes. Well, that's a cheat. It was just amusement rides, a fun fair. The word gay for homosexual was in use back then, but not as widely as today, and it's probably not the first definition in most fairgoers' minds back in 1962. Today the Gay Way is gone. It was renamed the Fun Forest, and then they took the whole thing down to make room for this, a garden and 8 galleries of Dale Chihuly glass sculptures. That opens Monday, but I sneaked these shots through the fence. Turns out you can see much more spectacular views if you go to their website. I'll link. By the way, I learned about the Gay Way here in a special section of the Seattle Times from 1962, and that's online, and I'll link. There's probably fodder in there for 3 videos, but this is the page that stopped me cold. They asked 3rd graders, what do you expect the 21st century would be like? Why did it stop me? You see this little 8-year-old boy, Mr. Eat Paste from Tubes? He grew up to be this guy, Bert Cold, and I worked for him. This kid was my boss. Yeah, and that's why I don't do a lot of time traveling, because you never know who you'll run into. Until next time, I'm Mikola. Announcement time, otherwise known as shameless plug time. The Vera Project is the Seattle stop of the Exceptionally Ordinary Variety Tour. We'll also be hitting Vancouver, Portland, San Francisco, Anaheim, but not Azusa or Cucamonga. Tom Nilsson, hexacornal, will be along. Here he is in his last visit to the Seattle Center, high atop the Space Needle. Adam Robertson, your average Adam. Todd Williams, Tudley00, Raymond Zoe, Cassandra Croft, Nerd Jorel. That's Zach Peacock, Voldy, and Jake Mulford. Did I leave anyone out? Yes, special guest stars. And now, oh, and I left out Alex Day, Narimon. But he's not coming. That's why I left him out. Tickets and dates in the doobly-doo, and I haven't done stand-up since 1985. So if you come on the tour, you'll see why. This is not green screen. I am really here.